Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Earlier today I visited Rexburg and I'm going to share with you some of those sentiments in a later episode. Sorry, that was the laundry going off. But during the first few weeks of trial, we heard just how extreme Laurie and Chad's beliefs were. And I must say, when you drive through Idaho and you drive through Rexburg and you see the churches, you can sort of feel an uptick in religious energy, religious feeling, and I guess also religious fervor. We even saw Laurie's brother, Alex, fully absorbed in the cult lingo. At one point, Alex told Laurie that Ned, the demon name for Laurie's husband, that's Charles, was still confirmed alive. And this just shows us to what extent Alex was part of the whole process, part of the whole program. But the question is, did Alex have more than a spiritual loyalty to Laurie? Was there something else besides a spiritual connection? And if so, was he more loyal and attached to Laurie than to Chad? And I think this is potentially a very interesting legal argument for the prosecution. So if you say that, Laurie didn't actually kill anyone, right? And so if she conspired, how did she do it? And that's the argument. Well, I think one's got to kind of ask the question, who was Alex more attached to? Who was Alex doing? Whose bidding was Alex actually doing? Was it Chad to Laurie to Alex? Or was it Laurie to Alex? Or was it, yeah. And so, having seen Laurie in the courtroom, I've sort of sat in court with Laurie right in front of me, and she looks very different. She's hardly recognizable to the woman that once sported movie star good looks. Beautiful blonde hair, big flashing 1,000-watt smile, glamorous dark glasses, right? And, seeing pictures of her through the years, it's evident just how brightly Laurie's star once shone. And also just how much it has waned in the sort of intervening period. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, is the unspoken narrative regarding Laurie and Alex. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Now, I think in the same way that one can say Laurie's come a long way, she's come through 5 marriages, and I think there's this impression that Chad was somehow this special case, and in some ways he perhaps was, but wasn't Laurie just doing the same thing with every successive husband, trying to get her pound of flesh, trying to work her magic? And with Chad, it was just a different kind of magic, right? Now, in the same way, when I visited Chad's home, the site where JJ and Tylee were buried, I was there earlier today, it was really hard to reconcile this with a photogenic couple living it up in Hawaii. There's something kind of traditional and almost old-fashioned about farming, right? And that sort of community. And then there's something quite modern about being a, pageant queen and getting married in Hawaii, isn't there? Personally, I think it's weak to stop there in a true crime space, to sort of say, wow, what an arc to the story, and to shake our heads and say how irreconcilable people seem to be with a given reality. Photos of Laurie reveal to what extent she's evolved, and I think the least we can do is make an effort, take a stab at trying to reconcile where these extreme beliefs actually came from. And that raises the question, did the extreme beliefs lead to extreme behavior, or the other way around? Was the extreme behavior to begin with, and that also then led to extreme beliefs, right? Think about extreme behavior, like I think it's quite extreme to maybe get married 5 times, right? And then don't you justify that with a certain kind of belief system? If you have been, doing certain kinds of taboo things in a sexual sense, then don't your religious beliefs then work to accommodate that? Now I want to deal with this idea that Laurie is a narcissist, and that comes from John Glatt, a British-American author who's researched the Vallow case and written a book about that. I'll post a link to the article in the Mirror where he mentions this. And that's something I've become aware of in the last 24 hours. It's this and this idea that was there some sort of taboo relationship between Laurie and her brother? That's something John Glatt also brings up. Let's first deal with this thing that Laurie's a narcissist. He says, these are his words, John Glatt says, "I'm not sure that she was an evil person. She may have been very easily manipulated." Now, remember, Charles described her as evil. Evil is not really a word that I like to use, but in the context of using religion and using God to perpetrate supposedly God's work, I don't know whether you can't use the word evil. I mean, anyway, and that is also very manipulative, is manipulating people like Zulema. Anyway, so I find that comment questionable because I don't think she was the one being manipulated or the one who was pulling the strings. And if that's the case, if that is what Glatt thinks, then I'm not sure Glatt has fully appreciated the criminal psychology of this case. I've said before that the body count in this case is 4-1 at least, and possibly as much as 6-1 if we include the attempted murders, the one on Laurie's, cousin-in-law, Brandon Bordeaux. I know I'm saying that wrong. Bordeaux, right? And if you add that and you also assume that Joe Ryan's death to be foul play as well, then it's actually 6. So it's at least 4, could be 5, and may well be 6. 6 people who've been targeted on Laurie's side of the family. But the point is, it was Laurie's side of the family where people were dying like flies. The closest people to Laurie. Chad also has kids. I think he's got 5 children. None of them were targeted. And so I don't think that means she was being manipulated. I think it means she was calling the shots. And so that brings us to the Cersei and Jamie thing, right? It's more common than you think, that old taboo. I think one of the least talked about aspects in this case also happens to be one of the least talked about aspects in true crime. Off the top of my head, I can think of 2 or 3 other cases where the Cersei and Jamie thing, what I'm talking about, has come up. The Ramsey case is one where people have speculated whether that could have been going on. Stephen Avery is another, where he apparently there are rumors that he had a relationship with his niece. The Don Steenkamp case in South Africa, where there was a 15-year-old boy with his 14-year-old sister, that's another case as well. So this is not so unusual that we've never seen it before. From Glatt's research, I wouldn't say we've got a smoking gun here. I mean, this sort of evidence, this sort of behavior is very secret to begin with. But we do have smoke of some sort. Well, I think we do. According to the article, quote, Laurie had a very troubled childhood, with one of the most disturbing issues being her relationship with her brother Alex Cox. In his book, Mr. Glatt made a revelation about Vallow's teen years, shedding light on the traumatic experiences Laurie was forced to undergo. And so Glatt did an interview with one of Laurie's best friends from high school, and this best friend revealed a disturbing incident that happened when Laurie was just 12 years old. According to the friend, during a sleepover, Laurie confided in her best friend that her brother Alex was trying to have sex with her, and she didn't know what to do. Now you might say maybe that's not true. But the other side of it is we are dealing with a very strange brother-sister relationship, one of the strangest in true crime. The article goes on to say that this best friend from high school, recalled that they hugged. They didn't tell anyone because she didn't know really how to approach the subject. She was just 12 years old. And then the incident was never mentioned again. But was there an aftermath to that? Now, if you consider that Alex was a bachelor until the last few weeks of his life, and also that Alex tagged along wherever Laurie went, like a sort of puppy dog, and possibly even performed murders to order, at least that's what's being argued right now in court, it does make one wonder just how deep Alex's loyalties actually lay. So you might say there's some kind of spiritual connection, but maybe his loyalties lie deeper than just the spiritual side. It's the spiritual side and something else. And I think the same may be said of Chad as well. And bear in mind, Alex may not be the first sibling who fell for a beauty queen sister with tragic consequences. The last thing I want to say is regarding Glad's comment that Laurie had very, very low self-esteem and that she was a real narcissist. I really don't like labels like that. So I'm not sure I agree with this aspect either regarding Laurie's low self-esteem. She strikes me as quite confident. In court, she strikes me as fairly confident as well, even brazen. I'm not sure low self-esteem translates to the confidence trickster we see charming the cops in Rexburg and Chandler, Arizona, and going on to podcasts. I do think the esteem thing is more related to something that's a lot deeper, to an acknowledgement that she's struggling financially and needs someone. She was trying to fix the situation the old-fashioned way by finding a man with a fortune and basically seducing him. According to the Mirror, quote, Glad, and these are Glad's words, he says, quote, "It's pretty amazing to be accused of killing your husband and your 2 children and then behave in the manner that Laurie Vallow is, giggling and wearing a lot of makeup, including bright red lipstick, which she has apparently prepared behind bars." End quote. Now, I can't really say that I've seen her wearing bright red lipstick in court, unless she just wasn't wearing it the day that I saw it. But I don't actually think it's strange at all. This is Laurie reverting to type. It's she's doing what she's always done. She uses men to get what she wants for leverage. Both her lawyers are men. Laurie is desperate to maintain the beauty pageant even behind bars because she knows just how successful her campaigns have been so far. She gets credit. She gets special attention because people think she's attractive. She's enjoyed that privilege. She's enjoyed that special treatment her whole life. And she really needs special treatment right now. Glad goes on to say, Laurie struggled with different husbands and was always marrying up. That's true. He says that she was always looking for a better life and was very good at using people and then discarding them when she decided they couldn't help her anymore. That's true. And the question is she going to discard Chad? Is she going to testify possibly and accuse Chad? But in any event, all of this idea of using someone in a very extreme way, right? 5 husbands is quite extreme. Perhaps this explains why Laurie may have had a relationship of some kind with Alex, like quid pro quo. She gives him something and she gets something in return. Doesn't it feel like that may have happened here? I mean, Alex even acts as a babysitter for Tylee and JJ. What's in it for Alex here, besides some kind of divine reward? Well, I think more than meets the eye. If you think about it, Alex was involved in assaults on both Laurie's previous husbands. He tasered Joe Ryan in a parking lot. I think he actually got 6 months in jail for that. And he shot Charles. That is getting very personally involved with your sister's partners. He also, it appears, murdered and buried Laurie's children. Now, if you think about it, if getting rid of husbands and children, if that whole thing, that whole strategy, if that was to remove impediments for Chad to be with Laurie, can't the same be said for Alex? Does that make sense? By the way, sorry for the noise in the background. I'm just doing some washing. But anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that. We are also going to talk about Chad and where Chad has come from. If Laurie's evolved as a person, so is Chad. So look out for that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
What makes you tick? Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.